The Song of Elbereth, A Middle-earth Tale. Scene 6, Under the Sea.
How is the sky green? Berindir?
I'm right here. Are you alright?
I am, but I never would have thought. Are we?
Under the sea? The answer would be yes.
Would be?
Yes, but as you see, we're not in the sea.
That doesn't mean we aren't under it, Berindir. If we aren't under it, then what's that up there?
Well, those would be fish, my lady. But the common translation of under the sea is to be in it. We aren't.
I can breathe, so I think I figured that one out already. But thank you.
You're welcome, my lady.
They were standing in an overgrown courtyard of pale stone, looking down and out over the lower streets of the city. Above and around them were sea gardens, and above rose the tower of Earelda's palace. The twisted spire seemed to reach for the glimmering sun above.
It's a very odd feeling, sitting beneath the one thing that terrifies me most. It could come down at any moment. What's to stop it but Ulmo's hand? Berindir, how deep are we?
Oh, we must be nearly hundreds of fathoms below the surface. I agree, it's rather intimidating. But we've made it to the place that Lady Eldrith has called us to. The water surely won't come down upon us, well, until we've accomplished the mission given to us. But come, it seems that the handmaid was injured.
Oh, brother. The boom struck her hard when it came loose, and her neck and shoulder are badly injured.
Oh, Dinfea, would that I had noticed your injury sooner. But the water of Nimrodel will ease your pain, little sister.
Earelda paused as she put the vial in her sash. She looked about. Her eyes landed on the miraculous seawall again. Shadows of sea creatures passed just beyond the water's edge. Earelda lightly touched the water. Her hand went through and she felt the currents pulling at her fingertips. Fascinated, she allowed herself to be drawn along the wall. Berindir looked up just in time to see Earelda turning the corner at the top of the stair.
Earelda. Rhaeloth, look after the handmaid. If I'm long in returning, find shelter in the nearest room you find, and wait for me there.
He ran up the stairs and found himself in a garden cloister with echoing walls, seemingly endless rows of columns, and streams of still bubbling fountains. Earelda was nowhere to be seen.
Earelda.
Berindir. Through an arched passageway and down a flight of stairs, Berindir stumbled upon an ancient pool that had always been fed by the sea. To his astonishment, Earelda seemed to be held down in the deep water by sprays of foam. A second look told him that these were foam fays, feminine water spirits, whose forms flickered between foam and that of a mermaid.
Let go of her. She's not a danger to you. Elbereth, Queen of Vala, has called us here. By her command, release her.
The spirits paused and slowly relinquished their hold on Earelda.
Are you all right?
That was a warm welcome to the notion of swimming. Thank you, Berindir.
And also a cold welcome for the idea of wandering off.
The foam fays rose from the water, contrite for their behavior, and wishing to offer a better welcome. One stretched out her hand and, laughing, touched Earelda's wet hair, drawing the water from it back into her own form and leaving it as dry as before. Another spirit gestured, and Earelda laughed when she realized she could understand them after her lifelong bond with Dinfea.
Maidens, do you know where the Queen calls us? We must obtain the light of Berindir.
The foam fays dove into the pool and reappeared in one fountain, leaping to the next as a troop of dolphins leaping in a ship's spray. Trails of foamy flowers lingered in each fountain, and Berindir touched one as they passed, thinking to give it to Earelda, but it fell away at his touch. He and the lady ran after the trail of the mermaids, and came to a great door that led into the palace. A symbol of a rising sun over the sea was impressed upon it as if on wax. A great column had fallen before it and blocked the path. The foam face then raised their hands towards the great tower, indicating the path that the pair were to take.
Thank you, and may Elbereth smile upon you.
The Fays departed then, leaving Earelda and Berindir to their task. Together they managed to shove the column a few feet farther from the door. An inch more, and it slid and rolled down the steps with a crash.
There. Now let's see what this place holds.
He pulled lightly on the door, and it opened easily. Before them stretched a beautiful throne room with tiles of white and beige, and a roof arched like graceful trees bedecked with colorful stones. Behind the throne was a wide stair, which led upwards and into a dark archway.
It looks like a path to the tower.
Together they crossed the room and mounted the stairs. Beyond the doorway, it began to curve and spiral upwards. Earelda glanced out a window.
Look, Berindir. The ocean is so clear. It seems strange to have a window separating it from us. But then only Ulmo's hand is truly keeping it from washing us away.
Several hundred steps brought them to another doorway, marked with swans and a star like the Cimmeril on Earendil's brow. Berindir put his hand to this door, but it did not open quite so easily as the first. Before them lay a darkened room with a star-shaped skylight with 6 points. Through it they could see a rippling swirl of green and blue, the ocean overhead. Berindir lit a torch. Directly before them, across the circular room, was an image of Elbereth. In her hands was a radiant light, and there were stars in her hair. Berindir stood silently, studying the sunlit mural. And both the ranger and maiden lost track of time as they spoke to Elbereth in thought. At last, the Dunedain shook himself and realized that the light of the torch was the only illumination remaining.
Earelda, is it late? Must you remain here all night? Dinfea. Earelda, wake. You are safe here, but I must go to them. Stay and watch.
He threw the torch aside and ran from the room. Cloisters, fountains, and gardens flashed past in a breathless race as another anxious call rang out. He came to the stairway and stumbled to a stop. A shadowy, hideous thing was hidden by the wall of water, but its tentacles slithered into the courtyard, riddled with Rhaeloth's arrows. Dinfea lay still, her horn fallen from her hand and taken up by Rhaeloth. Berindir drew his sword and ran down the steps. The ranger threw himself in the way and hacked at each tentacle that came towards them. But as soon as one was eliminated, another appeared. And so the seemingly endless cycle ran on. When Rhaeloth had taken Dinfea out of harm's way, she ran down to join him.
It's been nice to have so many arms. Oh, it's only a pity we have just two. Two quickly tiring ones at that.
The creature changed its tactics and slid one massive tentacle through an arched cloister and tore all the columns in one strike, throwing them at the pair. Shards and blocks of stone rained on them, and one pillar threw Berindir against the wall and pinned him there, leaving Rhaeloth helpless, blood running down her face. With Dinfea defenseless up the stairs and her brother out of action, Rhaeloth was forced to hope that she could fend off any moves towards her or either of them, and that she could hold out at least until Ulmo decided to take this creature in hand or fled the city, leaving them all drowned. Two tentacles went around Rhaeloth as if towards her brother and the handmaid, but cinched around her waist and cut off her cry as her bow snapped and dagger clattered on the stones. She was dragged into the wall of water.
Ray. Oh, Elbereth, get thrown in.
At that very moment, a gentle glow seemed to spread through the courtyard. It was Earelda. On her brow was bound a sparkling gem like the daughter of the great Cimmeril, and it was from this that the light was coming. She looked upon the wall of water which once held terror for her, and went and laid her hand against it. The light of Earendil grew brighter and spread through the water, illuminating the shadowy creature beyond until the water was as clear as morning sunlight. A gurgling hiss reached Berindir's ears as he threw aside the collar and struggled dazedly to his feet. Then there was a sort of shriek, such as he had never heard. Suddenly the shadow was gone, and Earelda had jumped into the wave. A moment later, Rhaeloth was lying in the courtyard, and the lady was bending over her.
Rhaeloth.
The daughter of the Dunedain was gasping, half crushed, scarcely conscious, and more than half drowned.
Rhaeloth, may the grace of the Vala sustain you.
Earelda healed the maiden's body with the water from Nimrodel, and the hallowed light of the star banished her fear.
Brother!
I'm here.
Is she alright?
Dinfea. Oh, my sister. Speak, for Elbereth has made you well. Do not fear, Rhaeloth will be well. Now we must go, but not before I tell you of the star. For I know well that neither the waters of Nimrodel nor the star itself will cure you of your curiosity.
I do not need my voice for you to understand my thoughts.
You must have expected it, sweet Dinfea, after all these years of learning the silence of your language.
I know we have to leave, so if you don't mind, can one of you please tell me your story very quickly? So, like, I don't know, there are monsters waiting for us? No, I'm just tired of being half drowned and very nearly eaten.
And it's not like you were the one most excited about getting her, Ray. You only spent the whole trip trying to take the lead.
Well, brother, let's just say the ocean is less refreshing than I thought. It's actually rather exhausting.
Forgive me, Rhaeloth.
No, I'm actually quite serious. How did you save me? I thought you were still afraid of the water.
I was when we arrived, but when Berindir left me, I spent that time in thought, speaking with Elbereth. I wanted to sing one of the many songs written in her praise, but new words came to me that I'd never heard before. The star of Berindir passed overhead and shone directly through the skylight, brighter than I have ever seen it before. Its light came so strongly into the chamber that I was blinded, yet felt drawn to stand within the ray of starlight. Then it was as though the mural of Elbereth had come to life, for there she stood, her hands upraised as she gathered the light into her hands. She turned to me and kissed my brow and bound it with silver, and from the light in her hands she formed a six-pointed star-like gem, which she placed upon the circlet which you see now. Thus our mission is accomplished.
Earelda, your name should have been Nimrodel, for, as elven maid there was of old a shining star by day. A star was bound upon her brows, a light was on her hair. Only, I hope your tale won't have an unhappy ending.
No sooner had he spoken than there was a rush and a war of water. The walls began to move inwards, and the sea swept over them.